Welcome to the Space Podcast series, Stories of Change. This is an AI-narrated podcast series inspired by authentic curriculum redesign cases. In each episode, we explore how educators are rethinking teaching and learning to build stronger connections between universities, students, and society.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, and today we're exploring a curriculum redesign journey within social services education that focused on bringing students closer to the realities of professional practice and community life. I'll be speaking with one of the redesign case holders about how a bachelor's level course moved beyond classroom-based learning and began integrating community-engaged activities with external social service organisations, helping students connect academic theory with the everyday realities of social work practice. Some subjects can perhaps be taught quite comfortably from a distance through lectures and textbooks alone, but social services seems to demand something more immediate and relational. Was that part of the thinking behind this redesign?
Yes, very much so. Social work and social services are deeply connected to people's lived realities, and we felt students needed opportunities to encounter those realities more directly during their studies. The redesign really started from the idea that professional understanding develops most meaningfully when students engage with the social contexts they are preparing to work within.
And this wasn't an entirely new program, was it? It was more about reshaping an existing course?
Exactly. It was a partial redesign of an existing course within the bachelor's program. The aim wasn't to replace the academic foundations of the course, but to strengthen the connection between theoretical learning, professional practice, and broader societal issues.
So how did that take shape in practice?
We introduced community-engaged learning activities in collaboration with several external social service organisations. Students spent time engaging with professional environments outside the university, which allowed them to observe institutional realities, social challenges, and the kinds of ethical and practical dilemmas professionals face on a daily basis.
I imagine that changes the way classroom concepts are understood.
Very much so. Ideas discussed theoretically in lectures suddenly became much more concrete and situated. Students could see how policies, resource limitations, and professional responsibilities actually unfold in practice rather than existing only as abstract concepts.
And what kind of impact did that have on the students themselves?
Students developed a stronger sense of professional identity and became more engaged with the course overall. Many also gained a more realistic understanding of social services work, including the complexity, uncertainty, and responsibility that come with it.
And for the organisations involved, what did the collaboration offer?
The community organisations had opportunities to contribute directly to the education of future professionals. Their experiences, challenges, and perspectives became visible within the university context, which helped strengthen mutual understanding between academic and professional environments.
Of course, introducing community engagement into a course also brings additional layers of complexity. What challenges emerged during the redesign?
One of the biggest challenges was coordination. Community-engaged learning depends heavily on communication and collaboration with external partners, and aligning schedules, expectations, and learning goals requires a great deal of organization and ongoing dialogue.
And academically, was there also a need to balance practice-based learning with theoretical depth?
Absolutely. One important concern throughout the redesign was making sure that community engagement enriched academic learning rather than replacing it. The intention was never to dilute theoretical foundations, but to deepen understanding through carefully connected practical experiences.
And because the redesign was still relatively limited in scale, I imagine questions around sustainability also remained open.
Yes, definitely. Further refinement and testing are still needed. What works well with a smaller number of community partners may need adjustment if the approach expands more broadly in the future. So questions around scalability, coordination, and long-term sustainability remain very important.
What do you think helped move the redesign forward despite those uncertainties?
Several things were important. First, there was a strong natural connection between social services education and community engagement itself, which created a solid foundation for the redesign. Secondly, we approached the process incrementally, allowing room for experimentation and reflection, rather than trying to transform everything immediately. And finally, peer exchange within the co-learning program helped us refine ideas, expectations, and practical approaches along the way.
And finally, looking back on the redesign process as a whole, what do you feel is the broader lesson from this case?
Probably that professional education becomes far more meaningful when students engage directly with the realities they are preparing for. And also that community engagement isn't an extra added onto education. It's a way of helping students understand professional practice more deeply and responsibly.
A thoughtful reminder that learning about social services ultimately means learning in relationship with society, communities, and the realities people experience every day.
This story is based on real experiences from curriculum redesign projects run under the Erasmus Plus Space Project. More information about the cases and the Space Project can be found on the website www.community-engagement.eu.